Dear colleagues, I hope you are enjoying the conference on the role of education for civil engineers in the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. My name is Spyridis, and I am now broadcasting from the Technical University of Dortmund in Germany. I'm sorry that I couldn't be with you in the beautiful city of Thessaloniki today. My presentation is titled University Education on Performance-Based Design and Lifecycle Civil Engineering in the Perspective of the Pandemics and Digitization. I have prepared this paper and presentation together with my colleague Katrin Stolz, who is working for our university's Department of Academic Teaching and Faculty Development. The content of the presentation, which focuses on the lecture Performance-Based Design and Lifecycle Civil Engineering, will discuss the teaching concept of the lesson. It will focus on some specific didactical objectives, and then it will show the overall assessment of conveying this lecture. But first, I would like to give you an overview of the background, so where this teaching is taking place. We're talking about the Technical University of Dortmund, and the university itself has 17 faculties, from traditional engineering technical topics to fundamental natural sciences, but also humanistics and social sciences. It contains 300 professorships, this means 300 chairs, institutes. It has 80 curricula, and in total 35,000 students. Now, a specialty of the university is the Faculty of Architecture and Civil Engineering, which was founded in 1974. And what is important to mention is that we have a joint architecture and urban design and a civil engineering and construction management direction in this faculty. The concept is, named under the so-called Dortmunder model, which has the aim to convey both subject-specific, economic, technical, artistic and practical principles for architecture and civil engineering, but also to offer this interdisciplinary education through cooperation between both the disciplines of architecture and of civil, or mostly focusing on structural engineering. And hence, we're talking about a holistic teaching concept. This is mostly pronounced by having a very good integration with practice, by combining teaching to both architecture and civil engineering students, and to request from the students to work together in 3 projects throughout the entire curriculum, from bachelor's to master's. This is also reflected in research, where we're mostly focusing on sustainable, durable, and life cycle oriented design, both in architecture and civil engineering. Now let's look at the details of the course Performance-Based Design and Life Cycle Engineering. This is more or less the front cover, if you wish, of the course. It is important to mention that the course is being taught in English language, and it was conceptualized already at the pandemic, so in the summer semester of 2020, where we had to deliver the course online. So the structure of the course contains online presentations, slide-casts, and then online discussion forums. Also, in this second year of the course, we had invited some expert guests from both the industry and the academia. Here you can see the table of contents, which contains different parts of risk and probability and statistics. We have then teaching in reliability engineering, robustness, also insurance in engineering, computer methods in the assessment of the above. And there is also a dedicated part of the course, the last section, which deals with existing structures, life cycle based design, and also collection and implementation of data in both existing structures but also sustainable new elements. But already at the introduction, in the first session of the course, I am making the students familiar with the basics of today's civil engineering. And I think this is well reflected into the so-called performance-based design and the life cycle considerations. And as you can see, I'm introducing the students to the complexities that we have to deal with today and in the future. So essentially the years spanning my graduates' careers. And these are the increase of global temperature. It is the depletion of resources and the consumption of construction materials today and how we need to limit those. We're talking about the radical increase in population in the last years especially, and obviously all these additional efforts and requirements this poses in our work. And at the bottom right, we also see the aspect of aging infrastructure. And you can see that essentially red are marked all lengths of the road network of Germany today that requires repair, that is beyond the acceptable service state. And you can see how this escalates in many different regions, and how this can intercept the function of the network and the safety of the users. So in that sense, we can easily understand how closely interwoven this teaching is with the civil engineering discipline, of course, but also the sustainable development goals, in many aspects, not only environmental sustainability, but also economical and social sustainability, as this is reflected in the SDGs themselves and in some studies that I have also cited in my manuscript. Providing also some exercises in the course. We're talking about economical and technical risk assessments, reliability assessments, bias and updating, robustness and resilience, and risk management. So many different topics that are interwoven, and I think this is an innovative course since all these topics are either not taught in modern curricula or taught separately and isolated from each other. And I think it's also important to show that we have some practical aspects, as I'm trying to sketch on the right-hand side, and the theoretical and mathematical knowledge behind that. And in the end, throughout the course, I'm intensively trying to make students aware that besides engineering, we have decision-making and societal demands that we need to respond to. And some innovative educational aspects. As I said, it is a lecture that was not transferred into the digital world. It was born in the digital world, the digital cradle, as the pandemic situation required. I had guest lectures from different disciplines, and it was an innovative way how this was introduced as a, so to say, conference style to have the students and the guests interact very closely. There was a hybrid offline-online. Although everything was digital, the slide casts were so that the students could listen to them at home at their own pace, but then we had these online guest lectures and online weekly discussion forums where the students should reflect also their own thoughts and also cooperate in some cases. And this is also a representation of the instructive and constructive method of learning and teaching. I also used a Zoom room which was constantly open as a co-working workshop, and I encouraged the students to participate there. And all these finally can be reflected by the so-called flipped classroom method, where we have the students being independent in a big part of the course, and then come into the course, into the sessions to reflect and exchange, and not only receive information. This is a graphical representation of the concept of the flipped classroom, where you can see how also these milestones of teaching, from preparation to being able to actively participate in the class, and then return and understand what this first cycle created, and extend their learning. For me, a big challenge in that was to understand how I can activate the students to participate in this flipped classroom and the other relevant activities, and how they can interact with each other. In many cases, since we had Zoom sessions, there was this situation below. I didn't have the feeling that the students are there. The participation was either shy or a bit indifferent, and I tried to activate it and especially improve the situation from the first semester that this course was taught to the second semester 1 year later. Now, the tools or the methods that I used toward this aim had to do, first of all, with improving the technical skills and dexterities of the students, to improve their transitional skills, but also to improve their social abilities. And this was underpinned by a set of methods that I name Educational Toolkit, and these included problem-oriented learning, mind maps, so cognitive orientations, especially in the beginning of every session or at specific milestones of the course. I had the chat ignition, so changing my role from a tutor to an encourager for the students, and then vice versa. I had the students to change roles, and I posed them questions which they had to discuss and return after some brainstorming, and try to convey their thoughts, and hence take the role of the tutor. Also, these guest lectures could be seen under the prism of a conference simulation. Now, after I implemented these tools, I had a self-assessment basically of how the course worked out between the first year and the second year, and also between the beginning of the course in the second year and the end of the course in the same semester. I monitored the number of participants in the live sessions and in this collaboration room that I've established, and I also use direct feedback from the students next to the structured, let's say, feedback sheets that they have to deliver for the course. Now, I have seen that I had quite high attendance in Zoom compared to the students that were registered for the course. There was quite a high interest of the students, and there was a relatively high frequency. So I had plenty of students, but not always the same faces. I had some contributions from the students, but I realized that there was no use of this co-working collaboration room. As regards the feedback, I'm jumping back to this last point. The students told me that indeed they stayed in contact with other communication channels. They were encouraged to participate in the online live sessions by the fact that they were digital, since otherwise they would have to drive and coordinate that together with their commuting. They were quite satisfied by the quality of the lecture. There was one session that was a bit too dense, so I will break it down to more sessions in the next semester. And finally, they found the guest lecturers very positive addition, since they were also quite engaged, and they allowed them to change perspectives from the academia, the theory, and the practice, and so on. Again, the homework that I asked them to do was not extremely motivating, but in the end, yeah, it was something that they had to do since it was part of their assessment. So this is an overall presentation with a focus on a course that is closely related with the Sustainable Development Goals. Also, it extends to some didactical concepts. So how is this course taught? This can be also conveyed to other lectures that are perhaps less relevant directly to the SDGs. But anyways, I think it's a very active topic, and this helped a lot to succeed in this course. The students, I think, understand the criticality of the sustainable development that we have to face today and in the coming decades. As regards the course itself, I am satisfied with the assessment, with the review that I had, which I showed in the previous slide, but there is, of course, room for improvement. And then this has to do with the workload distribution, with the inevitable and quite fortunate, finally, move to the classroom from the offline, but I don't think I will totally remove the digital part of the course. And in fact, I will see that I will probably convey it to a massive open online course. I hope that I will have more to narrate in the next meeting, and I hope I will be there in presence as well. Thank you very much for your attention.